focuses on sentencing, the basic components of a paragraph. It's the way we communicate ideas. Now, attached to this is the handout I'm going to use, and we're going there first, and then I'll come back to this page. But this is our handout. I want you to look at sentence structures and sentence patterns, because these are the basic components. Now, often students are very concerned about their skill level with grammar and with sentence structure. But the one thing that you need to do is to learn vocabulary, because unless you understand what the word means, you certainly won't understand the ideas. All of you use language and use it well every day. You communicate ideas. But when you first begin to talk, you can communicate with a single word. A toddler says juice, and they get what they ask for. But as we get older, we're expected to say, "May I have a glass of juice, please?" because we have a better command of language. And then as we get older still and our ideas become more complex, then the way we put them together becomes more sophisticated. So the first thing we need to do is make sure we understand vocabulary. A group of words with a subject and a predicate can be a sentence, a clause, or, a sentence, a clause, an independent clause, or a dependent clause. All of those are groups of words with a subject and a predicate. But only the first three express a complete thought. A sentence and a clause and an independent clause are all the same thing. All of them are a group of words with a subject and a predicate that express a complete thought. A dependent clause is a group of words with a subject and a predicate, or a subject and a verb, but it doesn't express a complete thought. When I came in the room, after I left, before I started today, are all incomplete thoughts, and they leave the listener wondering what comes next. Those are dependent clauses. It's important also, as we look at clauses, dependent and independent, to understand how we join them. And the way we join them is with conjunctions. A conjunction is something that puts two things together. You notice that coordinating conjunctions begin with the prefix co, and co means equal. So when we use coordinating conjunctions, we're saying that those things that we have joined are of equal value. Sub means less than or under, as in submarine, and a sub is something of less or unequal value. So when we join things with subordinating conjunctions, we are joining things of unequal value. When we have a subordinate clause, it is a clause that is of less value. That means that the idea is not the most important one. If you look back to coordinating conjunctions, you see the word fanboys. That's because that is a mnemonic device, which is simply a memory aid for the coordinating conjunctions, which are listed. F for fan, A, and that should be and, for, and, but, or, yet, and so. And please make the appropriate correction there. I'll correct it on the handout. But we have coordinating conjunctions, those limited number that join things of equal value, and subordinating conjunctions that allow us to join things of unequal value. Given that, we have particular sentence types. A compound sentence, two independent clauses, I came to school and I went to class. Complex, one independent and one dependent, before I came to school, dependent, I ate breakfast, independent. And then compound complex is a combination, at least two independent, compound, plus at least one dependent. Thus you have compound complex. Now within that we have basic sentence patterns. We have a subject plus a verb. there are three different basic types of verbs. We have a linking verb, an intransitive verb, or a transitive verb. A linking verb is one that links together. We have forms of the verb be, am, is, are, was, were, be, being, and been. And then we have words that we link, things like smell and taste and look, that we use to connect things and not to indicate action. Linking verbs join subjects to their complements. Complement with an E means to complete. Complement with an I is what I pay you when you come to class on time. So we have a subject linking a predicate nominative which renames the subject. Mary is my sister. Or a subject linking to a predicate adjective which modifies or alters the subject. Mary is pretty. Pretty tells me something about Mary, describes her. An intransitive verb is a verb that has no object. I fish, I sew, I run. Some verbs are exclusively intransitive, maybe exclusively intransitive. Some can function both ways. Transitive, think of transfer. It transfers the action of the verb to something else. So we have a subject in an intransitive verb, or we have a subject in a transitive verb, an action verb that requires an object. Sam hit the ball. And then we can also have an indirect object. Sam hit me the ball. Those are the basic sentence types and sentence patterns. 3 different types and basically 3 different patterns with a couple of variations. But the vocabulary is the most important part. Notice at the bottom I've listed pronouns because this is important vocabulary. A pronoun is the word that substitutes for a noun. If I say my mother and then I refer to my mother as she, I'm using a pronoun she to refer to mother, a noun, or to replace it. It can function in both ways. Underneath pronoun, there are 5 different words listed. These are important for a variety of reasons. But if you notice down at the bottom, it says a pronoun must agree with its antecedent in person, number, and gender. In order to understand that rule, you have to understand what each one of these words means. Person is sometimes called point of view. First, I. Second person, you. Third person, he, she, or it. Third person has gender. First and second do not. First person I is the person speaking. Second person you is the person spoken to. Third person is the person spoken of. Third person is considered the most formal. First person is considered informal, and we'll come back to second person. An antecedent is the word that the pronoun replaces or refers to. The number in grammar is singular or plural. The gender, masculine, feminine, or neuter, and agreement means that they're the same. So the pronoun must be the same in number, singular or plural, person, first, second, or third, and gender, masculine, feminine, or neuter. All of those things apply when we talk about pronoun antecedent agreement, an important rule. Now, if you'll notice up above second and you, I have a little circle with a mark through. And notice over to the left, I have a lightning bolt up above it because I want you to pay particular attention to this. As a general rule, the pronoun you is not acceptable in academic writing. The one exception is for explaining a process. But those instances are very limited. We cannot simply use you as a general reference, as in, you know what it feels like to run out of gas on the side of the road. That would be an inappropriate usage because it is not explaining to someone how to do something. And that's typically what we do when we use you in in essays. Notice that I tell you that you can use Control plus F, the search function in Word, and put U in that search function box so that you can locate it in your paper. And this is important because for some instructors, using U in academic writing is an F offense. That's as far as they get in your paper. They draw a red line, and that's the end of their evaluation. Be particularly conscious of this if it's something that you do. In this class, I will give you feedback, but by the end of the semester, I expect you to eliminate U from your academic writing. Notice the next instance there says, while first person is sometimes acceptable, ask to be certain. My advice for students is to inquire. If a teacher expresses to you the fact that you should know better, then you simply say, yes, I just wanted to make certain. Because it's better to ask and be sure than to write in first person and it be incorrect. But third person is the accepted point of view in academic writing. It is considered more formal. It is also considered to be objective in form. That is, we are talking about an idea rather than talking to someone else or speaking from simply personal experience. We're using evidence that is objective in nature, and that is part of the rationale behind using third person. Now, I've gone back to the main web page. Remember, the handout is attached at the bottom, and I'll correct the error in spelling. But in sentencing, this discusses those elements that I addressed to you. And then you can use the handout so that you can go back and review. But the basic structures: simple, compound, complex, compound complex, one independent clause, two or more, one independent with a dependent, and a combination of independent and dependent. I've given you definitions. An independent clause has a subject and a verb and is a complete thought, while a dependent clause is an incomplete thought. The basic sentence patterns with illustrations: a subject, a linking verb, and a complement. The predicate nominative renames the subject. The predicate adjective modifies or describes the subject. Notice that linking verbs are the forms of the verb be, and other verbs listed there: smell, taste, look, feel, seem, become, appear, and grow, that we often use as linking rather than action, as in he seems tired or he looks sick. Those are not actions but linking verbs. And then under action verbs, with or without an object. An intransitive verb has no object. A transitive verb does. Think in terms of what is receiving the action of the verb. And then compound. It gives you a more detailed description. Notice that independent clauses in a compound sentence are joined by coordinating conjunctions. A conjunctive adverb or a semicolon. Coordination means that the ideas are equal, and we typically use parallel structure, something we'll come back to. Notice it lists the coordinating conjunctions. It also lists correlative conjunctions, those that we use in pairs: either or, neither nor, not only but also. And it lists the conjunctive adverbs. I don't expect you to remember correlative conjunctions or conjunctive adverbs, but you do need to know how they work and how they join ideas. Compound sentences, two independent clauses that are because of their construction, indicate that they are of equal value. A complex sentence means that one is dependent on the other. And that means that there is a relationship between them, that one idea is dependent on the other. You can also use word groups to subordinate ideas as well, such as an appositive where you rename verbal phrases and participials. But these are the basic structures for sentences: simple, compound, complex, compound, complex. And these are the basic patterns so that you can construct your ideas in clear ways that echo or support what your intention is with regard to meaning. Remember that the handout is at the bottom and that you can come back to this at any time. Let me know if you have questions.